Hello, and welcome to this episode of East Valley Business, the podcast. I'm your host, Colin Diaz, President and CEO for the Tempe Chamber of Commerce. And I'm joined today by Mike DiDomenico, who is the Economic Development Director, for the City of Tempe. I'd say that you are a veteran in the role because you've been here for a handful of months now, but you've been in the field for quite a while, and we'll get to a little bit of that background. But for those that don't know you, share a little bit about yourself, maybe highlights of your career as a whole, and how you came to become our Economic Development Director.
Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me. I appreciate the opportunity. My background is primarily in the private sector, so very unique. Most of my colleagues in other cities are more formally trained. They come from the development or urban planning sectors, or they come from being formally trained economic developers. I come from the private sector, so my experience has been, for the most part, over the last 30 years, with developing, investing, brokerage, and property management, all in commercial real estate.
So how would you, I guess, of those, because you have definitely a unique perspective than most that come to the department and in your role, what would you say has served you the best as maybe being a trait from the past that makes you a little bit more unique than other economic development directors?
I'd say probably the brokerage and maybe 1A right behind that would be the investment development side of things. And I say that because negotiation skills, the ability to seek and trade information to develop a partnership is critical in economic development. And but understanding how real estate really works, being able to speak the same language as your development partners, or even internally with the city, understanding the financial side and the operations side.
Oh, those definitely matter. If you can share for 2024, and I know you probably look 2 to 3 years out at a time, but what are some priorities that the department has as it relates to the city in terms of growth or attraction?
Well, the way cities, no surprise to everyone, the way cities work is policy decisions and direction are often handed down by our mayor and council, and senior management in my department and all departments take our direction. Now, there's a healthy amount of give and take. Councils often look to the staff to help them create policy decisions, but it's no secret in Tempe that we're very focused on housing, especially not just market rate housing, where some other cities excel at market rate. We also try and be very inclusive in our planning going forward for affordable, attainable workforce housing. There's a lot of terms of art that are used in the industry, but we're all focused on trying to increase our housing stock. Business retention and expansion is maybe a secondary focus, but it's a constant in our department. Business advocacy, where we're speaking within the city on behalf of businesses, existing businesses who need a voice within city government and often don't know how to navigate the process. So we kind of serve sometimes as an ombudsman for our existing businesses. Workforce development, constantly what our employers, both ones looking to come to the community as well as businesses who are already here, that constant supply of employees is critical to their success. And we need to be a part of, as a city, creating those partnerships, often with the chamber, with ASU, who is a fantastic resource, as well as Rio Salado and other educators here in town, even our high school systems. We need to find ways to make sure we're producing next generation's workforce.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, the last, say, 2 to 3 points you hit fall squarely into a lot of the work that we do, from advocacy for the business community, business retention and expansion. For those that don't know what BRE means, business retention and expansion, how would you describe that in, let's say, a couple of sentences? What does that mean to a business that's currently here in Tempe?
Well, part of my background that I didn't mention before is I'm also a small business owner. So over the years, over the last 25 years or so, I've owned a brokerage and property management company here in Tempe. And I've also owned a property maintenance company, kind of that outdoor janitorial business. So I think like a small business owner. I know that not a day or a week goes by where there's not a challenge that the city could really be a help in.
Right.
And so business retention for us is when our existing businesses have a problem, how do we partner to help them solve that problem? Some of them are quick and easy, getting them answers or getting through the system. Others are more long-term. How do we create a long-term solution to not only solve today's problem, but the problem that's going to continue to come up? Expansion is just what it sounds like. We hope that our businesses here in Tempe are continually growing. And that could be number of employees, or it could be square footage, building new facilities when they outgrow where they're at, finding facilities to buy when they no longer want to be a tenant. So that's our BR&E activity.
And I appreciate you sharing that. I know for us, trying to help businesses maintain and grow, so that economic gardening, when we've got a person that may have one location, helping them have multiple locations or doubling or tripling their economic footprint and employee count are always important. Let's shift gears a little bit. So we just had an election not too long ago, and besides our mayor and council that we'll see for the next handful of years, we also talked about the general plan 2050, and that was passed. So with that passing, what does that mean? What does that look like? What are we expecting to see out of that moving forward?
Well, not to be political about this, I'm proud of how our city, over the last 30 or 40 years that I've been a citizen here in Tempe, have responded when we've had these big picture items out there. I'm happy to see that there was strong support for the 2050 plan. And what it means is that the city has a growth and development plan in place. It's not going to be decisions by crisis management. It helps both our citizens, both the people that are here already or people thinking of coming here, as well as the business community, know what the growth patterns are going to look like. They'll know if they move somewhere what the future holds for their neighborhood or the parcel next door to them or across the street. So it's going to be really, this plan isn't so different than what we were already living with or working with. I think it's going to be a continuation of this growth pattern that the city's been on for the last 10 to 20 years.
So speaking of the growth pattern, and I couldn't agree more, we were strong supporters of the general plan and happy to see that pass. When we look at the city of Tempe, and you hear the term landlocked quite often, physically, geographically, I would say that's fairly accurate. How do we solve that? You mentioned housing earlier. We didn't talk a lot about infrastructure, but that's obviously going to be one of the forefront issues in the future. When we're maintaining our workforce, attracting new workforce, how do we address, the challenges that might be faced with the landlocked city when we've got communities around us that are definitely doing a lot to grow?
We in the city like to think of it actually as an advantage. We don't have the ability. There are lots of opportunities that come to our region, that come to Maricopa County and Pinal County that are in the semiconductor industry, for example, or heavy manufacturing. Those oftentimes are opportunities we can't address because we don't have the land for it. What we do have is a built-out infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, we're talking transportation, we're talking roads, we're talking power, we're talking water, we're talking sewer, we're talking our school systems. So really, we're in a mode now where we can focus on maintaining them to the greatest ability that a city can, as opposed to some cities who constantly have to focus on building new roads and new schools and extending their water and sewer and finding ways to come up with the supply of water and power to meet the growth. In Tempe, we focus on the businesses that are here and the few remaining parcels that we have. We also can focus on, in our redevelopment activities, adaptive reuse. We can find ways to creatively reinvent our existing developed areas.
So I'm going to ask you something a little off the cuff, but it's the question that you probably get a lot when people understand what you do. Any new projects, restaurants, things that you're able to share? I know that there's some that are under wraps that can't be released quite yet, but anything that that creates more stickiness in the city of Tempe, if you will?
There's incredible traction right now in restaurant attraction. I can talk about a few that have already gone public. Normally, the restaurants want to control the message,
Obviously,
especially because too often they have plans to open on one date and those plans slip for numerous reasons. But we have a group, pretty decent concepts here locally based, that are opening 3 concepts on Mill Avenue, one in the old P.F. Chang's space that's at University and Mill. There'll be 2 concepts opening there, and those are under construction right now. And there's also plans in place for a brand new ground up restaurant that they're building at Rio Salado and Mill. So very exciting. We have a very established restaurateur coming in from Phoenix who actually recently moved his family into the neighborhood near Gamage.
Okay.
And he is opening a small restaurant that's very close to opening their doors. Will be called Flower in Time. And just walked the space last week with the chef, Ivan. Fantastic family. And this is going to be a fun spot that's really under the radar. Toured yesterday the Novus project, and that's an ASU-driven project. But there are going to be a dozen or more new restaurants that will open within the next 12 months. Several are already open. And Novus is really a partner. They're creating kind of a second district, maybe with a little bit of different edge.
Right.
We have 2 restaurateurs, Phoenix-based, that are currently actively, that I know of, touring some of the prime spots on Mill Avenue with very strong interest, and we hope to be able to announce something there soon.
Well, it's very exciting. Any from the, I guess, outside of the downtown area, office buildings, projects, housing? I know there was quite a bit that hit council towards the tail end of last year. May not be opening its doors this year, but projects that are going to start growing from, build up that you might be able to share.
Well, there are several downtown and Apache projects that are entitled that you'll start to see coming out of the ground in 2024. Delivering quite a few units. Some of them are student housing, but for the most part, they're all non-student housing projects, market with a lot of affordable built in. There is a project that 1 or 2 projects that we're sure will happen in the North Tempe as you go along Rural and Scottsdale Road that will be more redevelopment projects, but will bring additional housing units. And where housing goes, housing is built, people move in.
Right.
When people are there, they need services. That means it starts to drive restaurant and retail growth. And it's kind of the circle of life in the development world. Hospitality, we've got several hotels that we expect to see, some in the Novus campus, as well as still another 1 or 2 maybe in downtown that we will probably achieve.
Well, thank you for sharing that. We've almost coming up on time, but I wanted to I guess, round us out with one question. If somebody is looking at relocating to Tempe, What would you say is a competitive advantage or something that makes us unique um, within Maricopa County, but also the East Valley and the state as a whole?
Well, Tempe, if you live here or do business here, you know that we're unique. We're approaching 200,000 people as far as our population goes. But we really feel, if you work here or live here, we feel like a much larger city.
Right.
We feel like a city of 400, 500,000. We have the infrastructure. We have that great central location. We have an attitude about us. We're progressive. We're inclusive. We have ASU, which is an incredible economic engine. It's also a workforce provider. We have the building blocks that make anyone that's looking in the area want to live or work here. And we show that by being probably in the Southwest, one of the largest daily importers of workers. We have this incredible in-migration of people from out of our city who have to travel here to work. That happens nowhere else that I am aware of.
That makes sense. Well, we're looking forward to the great work you guys are doing and continue to partner with you all. Concludes our episode today. Thank you, Michael, for joining us. And then also for you for listening. I would encourage you all, if you've not connected with the city's economic development department and you would like to learn more, please do so, as well as connecting with us at the chamber. Stay tuned for future episodes. And that concludes today. Thank you.